the same.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what we're doing.
Yep.
So it's what, but you know, the trees that's fun to see, but it's that. So. I get it, I'm sad, they're looking. Hey, Eric. Good to see you. Oh, I got to hey.
But that makes total sense, because you get into healthcare and very, very complex to understand.
Yeah, and then.
Oh, here.
But wait.
Oh, really?
Oh.
It's part of the family here.
So there's that.
I'm trying to scroll with my computer to get this to go away.
We're just waiting for Dave.
All right, he's back. We're good.
Later it is or something. Oh, I want to call to order the Town of Rochester Planning Board meeting of March 2nd. We can stand on the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacy, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Jones,
Here.
member Nelson.
Here.
Member Roberts.
Here.
Member Duda.
She told me she was gonna be out, so excused absence.
Member Veteran.
Here.
Member Farnwell here. Member Pinsky.
Here.
We have Dave Gordon, Dave Church is absent, and myself.
And Greg
Greg
is coming
coming?
a little later
Okay.
for Verizon. Okay, so the first project we have is Meadow Lakes. And they like to approach. If everybody remembers. Meadow Lakes. Back on July 14th of last year. And subdivisions get a year to complete all the bits and pieces in the conditions. And the timeframes are first an 180-day period and then two 90-day periods, two extensions. And what happened is round about January 14th, 15th, when we should have heard that they were still having some problems getting this approved, the Department of Health. So it slipped, that 180 days expired. And I'll let you explain what happened, why that happened. So what they've asked is just to institute the two 90-day options, but started from the day it should have started had they gotten here in time. So we're not giving them extra time. So the start date would be January 14th, and the new end date would be July 14th of this year. So everything has to be done by then, or else I'm not sure what we do. We've never had that happen where it would take more than a year. So Matt or Eric, do you want to explain what happened to the board?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 180 days came and went, and I just forgot to file for an extension. That's what happened.
I love an honest man.
I mean, I'm not gonna, that's exactly what happened. And, it's taken the health department a while to review. It took them 7 months just to look at plans the first time. But almost whatever it was. But that's no excuse. Should have remembered that, didn't, but here we are asking for forgiveness. But we did actually get some good news. Health department approval did come through on Friday. So I think everything is done now. So we're actually ready to print the maps and get them signed. As far as I know, is the easement stuff and HOA.
Can you update us on the easement with the Rondell to Sopus Land Conservancy?
Yeah, so it's the document you saw is fine with those guys. Zali said there would still be like, maybe a word tweak here or there before it's finally executed, but he says it's substantially correct and ready to go.
So just to be perfectly in compliance with our code, when you have the completed one, if it's just spelling, I don't know that I care, but if there's any other changes, I need to give it to our attorney to take one final look
Sure.
at that document.
Yeah.
I don't need approval by the town board, but I need Dave's look at that. The HOA has been approved by Dave. The escrow monies for the site plan, that's been approved by the town board. The RMA was approved by the town board, so three of the major items were already done. And the last remaining one is to have Dave Gordon go through the agreement with the Conservancy, and then we're done. So
We have the other conservation easement, the one that would take, take effect right away.
that was approved
That
already.
was already.
Right, so the other easement that Eric is talking about is that there's two parcels that are not being included in the Round Out of Sopus Conservancy. They're parcels up in the front. One of them covered that area in which they can't disturb anymore because of the thought there may be buried material. So there is another easement that was worried.
It's for the soil, actually.
I'm sorry.
It's for the prime soils.
Oh, okay. But then, thank you for that, yeah, and that was okay also. Dave had gone through that, and there were some changes that were made. So, anybody from the board have questions?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
I also, I mean, the applicants have been really like master scholars in dealing with us, so I really would be in favor to allow the extension.
And just refresh my memory, the two of you recused the votes, right? Last time, when we approved this,
I think we
or
did,
did you just disclose that?
no, I don't know
We
whether,
disclosed that.
yeah, I don't think we were accused.
We didn't disclose,
Yeah, but
because I mean, there's no
No,
conflict of interest.
your recollections, you recused?
Yeah,
I'd rather that you just identified that you were members of the.
Right.
Yeah, because there was no. Yeah, I don't think.
There's no monetary.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
there wasn't a,
there's also,
Perceived conflict.
we clearly, we recused
Did you check
ourselves
the
in front of
decision?
it. Robert,
For the decision, it has Hans doing the motion, sorry, and seconding, approving 7-0.
Okay.
I think we were accused on the Round Out of Sopa side, so we started with
Correct.
on this. So we just recused ourselves
They didn't participate on the Sophie side.
on the
They
conservancy,
didn't participate at that organization.
on the conservancy side.
So Zali, we didn't review documents, we didn't participate in the findings.
Anybody from this side have comments? No. I'll entertain a motion to approve 290-day extensions, starting with January 14th, which brings us to July 14th. Jennifer makes the motion. Peter makes the second. All in favor?
I,
Chair votes aye. Anybody against? Okay, passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you're staying
6,
here somewhere.
Yeah.
We are.
Wait a minute, is there one more step?
6-0.
Huh?
6-0.
6-0.
Oh,
No,
6-0. Alina's not here, sorry. 6-0.
Okay, well,
We're
I
all set.
don't think we'll need all the
Don't let us be here.
We have been dinner class. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, the next item is Bill Akers. A lot line adjustment for
I guess you're.
ski slope. Bill, you wanna go on up?
That because you cannot pronounce Kudryavtseva?
Sorry.
That because you cannot pronounce Kudryavtseva?
Just say excuse.
Yeah, because you're writing ski slope, what's ski slope? I'm not going to ski on.
That's why we have.
Sorry, very sorry.
Your English is better than my Polish or whatever.
That's Russian.
Russian? Okay. Do you want to explain what we're doing here? I know what we're doing here, but what we're doing for this particular project, and there's maps there for you, by the way.
So this is a lot line improvement. This is really an improvement because the existing lot line runs right through the middle of the building. And they're proposing to move the lot line over to fit the existing conditions better. These are two existing undersized lots in the same ownership. And because they're undersized lots, they could not be approved by the planning board apparently, so they went to the ZBA, got a variance for this, which I believe you have in your records, that approved variance. So that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna debate the fact that you went to the ZBA, Mike. I don't know that I don't know that I would recommend that we would send this to the ZBA because they're both grandfathered and not compliant lots. And all you're doing is moving a line. You're not making a compliant lot uncompliant. You're just moving it and they're still both non-compliant. So, but anyway, you got the ZBA approval
Somebody did, I didn't know. But
many years
I think the
ago,
applicant did it.
many years ago. So it's done. So all they're asking to do is to move a line so that the dividing line doesn't go through a cabin on the property. I don't see any other problems with this. Does anybody else pick up on anything?
I'm just curious why I was seeking for so long.
Yeah,
Say that again, sorry.
Why I was seeking for so long to
what was the delay?
conclude everything.
The applicant lives out in Washington
California.
or California.
I have no idea.
And at first they wanted us to do it without them being here and just, you know, I said, "Nah, I need somebody to represent them." Bill did the maps. I said, just have them come in and I said, look, it took them 4 years to get here from the time they got the ZBA approval. So I can't explain why it took them so long to come to us. I don't know. But
Do we need to do escrow for this?
thank you. Bill, I need $150 worth of escrow so that Dave Church can do the lot line documentation. So would you get that for us? Stacy, will you note that?
Yeah, do you need to do a motion to
Sorry?
request?
I'll make a motion that we
Yep.
Get
second.
$150 worth of this.
Peter and Jennifer seconds, all in favor, $150? Aye, 6-0. One absent. So Bill, I need to get that. I'll let Dave Church know to put together the document. And
Bill, do you know how
he's out sick, so I don't know if he can, we'll have it for next week's meeting, the 9th.
Okay.
So I'm not promising. If I can't, the next meeting after that is the 30th. But it's just a matter of reading the decision at that point in time.
Do you know how it came that the cabin went right across the property line?
I don't remember how that. Happened like that, probably somebody didn't know where it was and built that, you know. Because we did the survey about 6 years ago, I don't know the details of that.
It's a mystery.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're gonna get escrow, we approved it. And all we need to do, is to have a decision and we'll approve the decision as well, but the board is fine with this. Bill, you're here now for
MH.
NH Properties.
Yes.
Oh, this is really colorful.
Yeah, you know, looking at that, it's like so colorful, it's kind of hard to see, so I did load up onto Vehicle Lab. The same map with the colors turned off, just so a little easier to see, and if anybody's interested in seeing that without the colors, I do have copies of that here if you want, yeah.
yeah.
Why don't you hand those out, Bill?
Great, and here with that copies here with the well, if I don't remember, one here, that you look for each quadrant here. And just because it's. Real key up there.
So Bill, this was, last time you were here, it was last year back in,
You want to see it?
It's like
April or May. And then the applicant withdrew the application,
Yes.
June 25th, he withdrew the application. So now he's back. Why don't you get your map out? You want to tell us what's going on here?
So this property is on Queens Highway. You may remember a couple of months ago, we did a lot line adjustment for the lands of Brower there in Broadmead Farms. This is right across the road from that, basically.
The Grower property is up on the right-hand side of the map.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the bottom side of the map, if you.
Bottom side?
Yeah. Lower side of Queens Highway, if you're looking at the map. here.
Grower and Petrocelli, yep.
Yeah. So that's where that is, some context of where we are. So it's just before Sundale Road cuts off there. And we've got an existing house and other structures, a lot of, they have pool and such on the main portion of the property. And we've got a proposed 3-lot subdivision. So the main lot, 18.3 acres, the dual existing house, and there'll be some dog and everything going up to that. They want to cut out a small parcel of 2.29 acres down in the corner on Queens Highway. And then the 3rd lot, around in the back, with a shared driveway for a portion of that, and then a driveway over the right of way over the center lot to get to the piece in the back there.
So why did he withdraw it back in June?
I believe that they had some,
I'm the owner of the
yeah,
property.
he's owner here, and
I
we,
think I wasn't correct, I'm sorry. We were asked to withdraw because we had an open building permit.
Oh.
So we were told we couldn't I think by the planning board that we couldn't have a application to planning board while we had an open building permit.
Okay,
So as soon as we closed the permit,
Okay.
we replied.
okay,
Thanks.
all right. Does the board have the a letter from a temporary, what was a temporary CEO from back on January 20th? It's in the file, Sean Marks.
Yeah.
And he points out a couple of things. And so Bill, do you have a copy of this, Bill? It was dated January 20th from Sean Marks.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, on town of Rochester letterhead, yeah.
Yeah, so the first color, a couple of bullets just talks about the first 4 or 5, just states facts.
Mm-hmm.
Then the 6th bullet, 2, 4, 6th bullet down talks about there's a national wetland. Okay, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a wetland buffer that you have on the map. Lot 3, which is the one down on the,
That's not 2, actually.
Lot 3 is up in the back.
is up in the back.
It's the one on Queens Highway.
So he says lot 3 does not meet the required frontage for the R2 zoning district.
It would need a waiver by the
Sorry?
board. It would need a waiver by the board.
Yeah, because it's landlocked, okay. The next bullet has to do with Bill pull-offs, depending upon the length of the driveways. Whether or not, if any of them are beyond 500 feet, we need pull-offs Peter, what is it, 500 feet?
500 feet.
500 feet.
So you need to take a look at all these driveways and determine if there's any pull-offs that are necessary. The area of disturbance, according to Sean Marks, exceeds 1 acre. So I don't know whether you evaluated it, that we need a stormwater. A SWIP,
Mm-hmm.
a simple SWIP. We're gonna need that. Down the road, we need a road maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, we know that. The next bullet talks about the lot line improvement. We knew about that. And then there are open building permits. So I assume there's no open building permits at this point, right?
No,
Okay. So Bill, on the one that needs the request for the variance, because it doesn't have road frontage, you need to get us a letter in that regard, asking for that variance, and the board will consider whether they're gonna do it or not. Dave, can I have the color map? The one comment that I have, and there certainly might be others, is the driveway that's intended to serve lot 3, the one that's landlocked, is going over an area on the colored map that looks like it's over 25% in slope.
how much more?
Yeah. I don't see that. I don't see any kind, oh, here's the legend. The legend's up on the left-hand side,
25 to 60.
and it's 25 to 60, so. I don't think this board is gonna approve that driveway bill over that area, since it's at least 25 up to 60. So you're gonna need to show the driveway coming off of the driveway that's servicing. What is it, lot number 1? And create it in such a way that it's just going over lands that are 15 to 25 feet and slower. But I don't think it's reasonable and I don't think it's in accordance with, no, I don't think it isn't, it is not in accordance with the code that prohibits anything of any driveways and slopes over 25 feet, unless you absolutely can't get a driveway in there, and you can, it'll probably be just as long, but it'll have to be off of this other driveway that already exists. So you need to take a look at that, talk to your applicant about that.
Just eyeballing it, these look like they're actually more than 30% or so, so.
Just by looking at the,
Yeah, you looking at that in the scale.
Right.
So that gives you some sense of what it is.
so right now, other than that, I don't have any more comments. We are gonna ask for escrow of 1,500. We'll get to that. And Stacy, we're gonna ask Dave Church to do a review. We haven't done a review on this either. So Bill, any reaction to and the board?
I have a few
Go ahead,
comments.
Jen. Yep.
Also, so the slopes, if you could move that into legend, that would be helpful. Also, it looks like maybe there's borings or something marked on here, if you can indicate that in the legend as well. I don't know what those are.
Oh, those are, for health department, septic, permits, and they put a new septic in.
Okay, if you want to leave it on here,
Yeah.
put it on the legend.
Yeah, the markers are not really,
Make the slope legend, I think, Jen, much bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
was
think
surprised when I
it's-
saw it, I was like, what happened to
So
that?
this is the thing.
Especially on
Reviewing these
yeah.
maps on the computer is so difficult.
Yeah.
And I didn't even, I thought I looked everywhere
Yeah.
to find the slope. I still didn't see it until I'm seeing the paper copy, so it's really helpful to be as explicit as possible because we get everything electronically. It's just the nature of it. I took a look at like the Google map area when I was reviewing this, and there's a building on the aerial that's not reflected on the map. It appears to be a structure next to the house.
The existing house, Jen?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, because it's just the aerial, but if you could add that.
Is
And
it a
that-
structure or is it that, it's not that patio? There's a patio there.
It's detached from the house,
Okay.
not, and I looked back and forth, it looked like it's a separate structure that's not reflected here. If I'm wrong though, that's fine. Also, the map notes that this is an existing driveway up to lot 3, but looking at an aerial, it didn't appear to be a driveway there.
The reason
Well, the aerial was from 2026. So unless it went in the past few weeks, there was nothing in the aerial. That showed on Google Maps.
It is
the
actually, I
satellite.
just have it in front of me. It's from 2026.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
which I checked
Please.
because you know how that stuff goes, but it's
Yeah.
very recent satellite. image.
So there is no driveway, even though it's a,
It doesn't appear that there is
Okay.
going up
I
there.
want to go out there and look at the ground rather than trying to see it through the trees.
I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know, obviously we haven't been there, so. I could be mistaken, but this is based on my review. And then the final comment is, do we require a buffer for the pond?
yes.
So we need to get that on here, and I think the driveway's gonna, I think it could affect your driveway, putting in the 100-foot buffer,
The code requires anything of a water nature,
right?
stream, river.
Yeah.
Pond, wetlands needs a 100-foot buffer.
So, so we need to see the buffer because I double checked and this is just the edge of water. So you'll need to put the buffer in there and then take a look at the driveways. And we've already talked about it, there seems to be pretty steep slopes, so I don't know, it seems like the driveway back to that third lot needs a little work.
Okay.
I didn't go into both of the places.
So Stacy, as a result of what Jennifer mentioned, we need to do a site visit. The ground is, there's not as much snow out there, so we need to arrange with Bill for site visit. Anybody else have any comments from the board?
I mean, I don't want to ride on the 2026 because it's clearly a picture taken in the summer.
Well, that's what, yeah.
But it cannot be this year because we had snow from.
That's true, we did have snow this year.
I just don't wondered about that driveway just because it's going to a part of the lot that's not developed. So,
There didn't seem to be where lot 3 is, there didn't seem to be anything back there.
Yeah.
So, and there are some trees, but not the whole thing, so I don't know what you can see without trees, it doesn't look like there's any existing driveway,
Okay,
that's all.
anybody else? I'm gonna ask for $1,500 escrow. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion.
Second,
I'll say.
Dave, and then Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 6-0. So Bill, on this one, we get the escrow, Stacy's gonna call you to set up a site visit. And we're gonna wanna do a site visit for Dunn also, so we'll probably try to do them the same day. That's the next project on the agenda. And then get us the $1,500. Bill, do you have any reaction to what you heard tonight?
I don't know if I want to press the issue about because I don't really know exactly what the town code says about a driveway, it's section there. But there is a driveway there, so I can tell you.
So you're saying there's a driveway that goes from County Road, from Queens Highway, all the way through that high slope area?
Yes,
All right, so,
It's on the map,
well, it says proposed.
it is existing,
No,
it's
it's
proposed 50
existing.
feet right away.
proposed right away.
Oh. Well, if it's existing, it's existing, so let's get out there and
There.
take a look.
Right.
Or you confirm, if it's existing, so.
Also, for whatever it's worth, it goes diagonally, so the slope of the driveway itself
Will
is not gonna be the same as the slope. of
if
the,
they were going straight up.
If it's a 30% slope, you can like that.
Yeah, maybe it's been
20%
engineered in
driveway.
such a way that it doesn't, so that might be one thing that, okay, if it's there, it's there. So hopefully we can get to see this during the second or third week of March.
Okay,
All right, Bill?
You do have to make the secret determination on this?
I usually wait until after Dave Church
Okay,
does his thing. But you know what, this is gonna be, I'll propose that we make the secret determination of unlisted, uncoordinated, just to get that out of the way. So I'll make that motion. Unlisted, uncoordinated.
We don't need to wait for Dave's deal,
Um,
I guess if it's unlisted,
let's
yeah.
do it because Dave probably won't get this done until the end of the month.
Okay.
I just want to get it on the record.
It doesn't fall into a type 1, I don't remember the categories.
I don't know.
It's not time.
It's not unlit, it's not type 2, and I don't know why it would be type 1, usually those are pretty big,
Yeah,
right? It's not near a park or anything, which, and even then, that would only diminish the thresholds to 75%, it wouldn't get rid of them, you'd still need to cross a threshold of some sort in terms of, you know, parking, pavement, or whatever, you could look at the list with these thresholds. And even if you knocked it down 75%, I don't see what this would cross.
Okay.
And you know what, if you get it doesn't matter, if you get it wrong, you can always redo it, you call whatever you want, but if it's type 1 and you call it unlisted, it's type 1. It doesn't,
Oh, I see
we
what
do
you're
not,
procedure.
Yeah.
it's
Type
not,
of thing.
it's not a judgment call
Yeah.
as to what type, in some, depending on the criterion, but in most cases, it is what it is.
okay,
I'm stepping out of the protocol we've been trying to follow, but I don't know that Dave's gonna get this done until the end of the month, so I thought. So I made the motion.
second.
Peter seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so 6-0, unlisted, uncoordinated.
So we should also refer to the, once the driveway is determined to the highway department.
Yeah. Okay, Bill?
Yep.
All right,
Great.
yes,
To start preparing right away and driveway agreement.
let's wait until we resolve the question of whether the driveway is there or not. And that's pretty pro forma. Bill, thank you for this map that has the
Yeah.
color. the colors and then the one that has no colors. All right, that brings us to the next one, which is Dunn Farms. Thank you, Mr. Marshak. Thank you. Okay. Dunn Farms has been in front of us for a little bit, although they haven't been back recently. What was holding it up a little bit was the many easements, or what was perceived to be a lot of easements, and there are easements on here. Peter, I'm gonna let you address the easements.
Yeah, I mean, I was, there was a proposed, it was done as a big subdivision back in the nineties, I believe.
Yeah.
And then part of it was built out, it was supposed to be done in phases. Blue Stripe Lane and Cedar Ridge. But then it was unsubdivided. With large funding. So I was concerned that there were some leftover easements because the original easements and covenants that were on it were pretty restrictive. So Bill had provided us with a couple of maps that were referenced in a deed from 2021, I think. Or no, it was earlier than that. It was between Frank Dunn and Mary Collins. And it's separated out. There are a couple of maps that are referred to in that Bill provided with, and there's no reference to any of these easements on the map, so it was really hard to figure out if there is anything left over, and I don't think that we're able to find anything. It might have been just drainage. What did you think about that? I know
And even those drainage ones were like between the lots.
Yeah.
In those particular sections.
Yeah.
Which. Lots don't exist now.
Yeah, so I don't know how to pursue it any further.
So
Title
Bill,
company said there's no issues.
Yeah,
To be clear, the official map that's on file in the county has no easements on it for this property.
Right, it was. This property was shown as, basically future subdivision highways, it was not part of what was approved. For the subdivision that's over on Pearl Road on the other side there. And then when they did come back and do later mapping that divided these portions, which were, I think they were like section 3 and 4 or something. And then they did a later map in 1990, I think it was, to subdivide out the original barn and tract of land around that, which now is lands of Rabin. Tax map lot 2.121. So when they did that in there, that didn't make any mention of any easements on that. That was the most recent mapping of this land.
All right, so what I'm getting at is, I need to hear either a yes or a no. Is the map that we're dealing with, this map complies with what the county has on file, and there's no encumbrances in the way of easements on that map.
Right.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And we did the best possible job that we could to confirm that. It looks that that's the case.
yeah, there's the note on one of the maps from 1986. Says from the undersigned certify that we are the owners in fee simple lands depicted all sites, streets, rights of way, easements for public utilities are hereby dedicated to the public and hereby certify each lot containing a suitable site has been 3 or 4 bedroom single homes. It was funny reading back on this in the earlier deeds that a lot of the restrictions were the type of homes that they did not want in this subdivision when they devised it, meaning they didn't want trailers or even modulars initially.
They didn't want double wides.
Yeah, they didn't, they're very restrictive kind of covenants, but I think a lot of that sort of a done deal that it went away because of the.
It was unsubdivided.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So I think I can report to the board that we got a clean map to the best of our ability to discern whether we do or we don't. Dave Church did do, back on January 1st, he delivered a write-up for us, made a recommendation in terms of seeker type as unlisted, uncoordinated. So I'll make a motion that we declare that to be the case.
I'll second that.
All right, so I made the motion, Peter, unlisted, uncoordinated. So let's just go around the table. Does anybody from the board have any comments on this?
Yeah, I have a question. Why on lot 234 you are not showing septic tanks and wells?
That's a good question, Zorian.
All right, so you need to show the
Yeah.
septic, the proposed septic.
Septic
Yeah,
and wells location. Wells location?
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
and also reading what they wrote, it's unclear for me. Where's that farm road? Because is that now becomes a driveway or talking about some remaining farm road? How it's gonna be
Just that-
used?
That like, in the angle at the Radley property there,
Which lot is
in
it?
lot 4, there's kind of like a point coming up. At the lower section of the property.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, it was right here. I can switch over.
Yeah. So it's gonna remain. in
Yeah,
recreation.
anyway,
Is it gonna
yeah.
be used, not used?
No, it's not used. I mean, it's currently being used by the farmer to get from the farm down in here up in here, but. Property owner said that there's no easement for that and there is no intention to have any.
Yeah,
Official easement for that.
make sure that there is no conflict. What was recently one application they had to use forever. Driveway coming through the property and then you only said. There is no documentation, you cannot use them now. Remember?
Yeah,
So Bill, there needs to be a map note that indicates that the farm road is being abandoned.
Okay. And it's just it's a tractor drive.
Tractor, okay, just something in there that, and we found nothing in the deed that referred to any kind of an easement for,
no,
okay, so we just need a map note that says that. Even though it's showing on the map that it's not in use. It's not viable, there's no easement for it.
so where the road that leads the proposed driveway. I'm just trying to, I'm looking at it on Google Maps. It's a little hard to know where it comes in relative to that. To that farm road, which is called Fisher Road initially. So the proposed driveway go right along the line of Raven?
Yeah. And the alignment of it, if you're looking at Google Maps or the parcel viewer, that's. Has sometimes happened. Not. Quite accurate.
Right.
So Peter, you're suggesting that south of lot 3 is where that farm road comes in, and that's
So
where
it's clear on the parcel view. But it's yeah, it's clear on the parcel view.
okay. And then Bill, you have 2 emergency pull-ups on here,
Yes,
so that represents 2 sections that are 500 feet long,
right.
okay. So that whole driveway is what, almost 1,300 feet, 1,400 feet?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Okay.
Do you know that, I know that there was wetlands, were they delineated?
We haven't had the wetlands delineated, and I think we only really. The wetlands is that little pond
Yeah.
that's going up there. That's down there, and it's. Significant difference from distance from any proposed improvements of driveways, houses, or anything.
Okay,
They grow, 500 feet away from the
So
wetlands there.
Bill, I don't see the pond. On what lot?
That's on
That's
lot
lot
4.
Where, up on, oh, there it is. Where is it though, Bill?
it's on the right-hand side up near the
Oh.
soil MA.
So.
It's a type of soil.
For you.
Oh, I see it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right there. So Bill, is there a buffer around that?
What's wrong?
I don't have anything shown on that, I can certainly.
We need a buffer around the pond.
And Bill, there is no legend, what's green power? What does green power represent?
What is it, like a farm buffer? Was that a farm buffer? The farmer, it's not a rather farm, is that a pond that has a stream that leads to some other stream, or is it just a?
Yeah, there's a drainage that comes, kind of wanders along this adjacent property, that CWC blue stripe there. There's a little drainage ditch that comes down through there, hits that pond and runs on there.
So that needs to be on the map, right? That's not an.
Yeah,
independent
this, I
stream.
mean, this is a sketch plan. We were just yesterday. Finished doing the field rotation on stuff out here, so.
Okay, so let's make the pond look like more like a pond with the buffer around it, and then the stream. Let's show it on the map with the buffer around the stream too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
cause it's the DEC letter stated it as a
Yeah.
very
Plus,
high class 1 wetland.
so is there wetlands in addition to the pond?
Yeah, that is the wetlands.
That is the
we're-
wetlands, okay.
Yeah,
so Bill, so what's the green color?
That's, there's a little note in there right under where it says farmland of statewide importance, is wooded area. That's wooded, all the rest of the property is completely wide open fields.
Could you add a legend to the?
Yeah.
Those
Kind
ones.
of surprised that we don't have one on here. And it started over a year ago, like. Lost track of where things are at.
So we need a legend.
Yeah.
Including the definition of what the green farmland. Forested area is. What else? Anybody else?
yeah, there's a historic house that did we need to go to SHPO for that or?
Is there risk storage house?
I didn't see anything. On the mapper that,
Yeah, there's a Hornbeck house is identified in their. In their,
it's on the EAF mapper.
yes,
So Bill, you have to go to SHPO for the house? Okay, you good with that, Bill?
Yeah, I just, looking to see what it says on the EAF and. for some
Last
reason,
page of the EAF,
My,
I missed it too, but
I'm just trying to find it. It's remember, it's called the Hornbeck House, I think is what it,
oh, okay, yeah, here's. Nothing on the site, but adjacent would be,
yeah,
okay.
so you need to get a letter from SHPO on that.
We've been doing that. Anymore, we're just sending it in, whether it calls for it or not, we're just sending it in anyway.
Okay. What else?
I think David had something in the write-up about farmland, right, so. Sorry, to go back and find it.
Line farmland
Prime farmland and, so,
and then farmland of statewide importance.
yeah, it was, find the,
So they need to ask for a variance in accordance with the new part of the code.
yeah, there's some, on this one, let me find it for 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
You'll need to. Something caught my attention in that. What would it be called?
Right there.
Yeah, there's. So in David's write-up. He said. Planning board top property, from a seeker, okay, the applicant is now aware of need to comply with the design criteria for subdivisions defined by town code 125-22. First, as per town code 125-12A, subject property has greater than 3 acres or more of connected prime farmland. Exceeding this threshold would require submission and review of conservation subdivision design options should the planning board request this. Application does have the right as per 125.5 to request in writing a waiver for such requirement. Is a new subdivision design requirement. Second, the presence of prime farmland soils obligates the planning board to consider town subdivision regulations 125-22A7. Subdivisions on lands containing valuable lands, prime soils of statewide national importance shall be designed to leave the maximal amount of prime farmland undisturbed and contiguous. Provision requires a discussion about sketch plan provided may need to carry it over to the final plan. Third, the proposed lots are substantially covered by soils defined as prime farmland of statewide importance or prime farmland if drained. 125-12B restricts any lot area in a subdivision to be more than 40% farmland soil. This is also a new subdivision design element in the town code. Applicant does have the right, as per 125.5, request and writing waiver from planning board. After review of the sketch plan with the planning board, this waiver and then aforementioned possible waiver may be reasonable in this case, given the context of a minor subdivision that includes an existing dwelling with the assumption that any final subdivision layout leaves, quote, the maximal of prime farmland undisturbed and contiguous. Preliminary review suggests lot 4 achieves this, but lot 2 and 3 as proposed could shift development locations. So
Bill, if you remember a couple of the projects you've come to us with, we identified that as a result of the change in the town code, 125-12A, A and B. We need to come back to us with requests for variances. One of those says, if X, then Y, namely you have to give us an option for a conservation subdivision. I don't think we need a conservation subdivision here. There's
I don't, I do.
right?
3 lots, so
It's only 3 lots,
I
right?
didn't even get one.
So, and then there's another section of that same new part of the code, Bill, that talks about asking for other waivers, depending upon whether or not 40% or more of the land is soil of is farmland of prime importance. So go through that part of the code and come back with a letter proposing for variances, proposing to ask for variances and the reason why you're asking for them. And there are sounds like there's 3 separate variances you need to ask for.
Yeah, it's all under review.
It's in that review from Dave Church.
Well, and could we also get details on what percent of each lot is prime farmland? Cause I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't tell either. Yep.
So we know what.
Really confusing because of the way these soil types are all over the place. I had a tough time even figuring out, like, which is this soil here, because it connects all the way around and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it'd be helpful to know, cause our code stipulates, what is it, 40% is the limit, so we. Cause it's hard looking at this, like it looks like maybe a lot.
So Bill, make a best effort to come up with what percentage of each of these lots causes you to need to come to us to ask for a variance from those sections of the code, the new sections of the code, 125-12A, B, and C, I guess it is. All right.
Okay.
And then we want to do a site visit for this one also. So Stacy, when we make the arrangements for Marshak, we should do it for Dunn Farms also. You good with that, Bill?
Yes.
And we already have escrow. And we should Dave did make a recommendation on what kind of secret type this was unlisted
Did that,
on coordinate. We did that already, right?
did that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Bill, I think there's quite a bit of work that you need to do on this, and that the earliest that this would come back to us is the end of March.
Yeah.
So the next meeting, the end of March meeting is March 30th. All right.
Great.
Okay,
Perfect timing, though.
Mhm.
thank you, Bill.
No. That was perfect.
Hi, Greg.
Hello.
All right. So now it's time to jump into Verizon. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? Scott, do you wanna? Walk to the table? And then we'll have a break for 10 minutes.
We did escrow. We didn't do that because she's. After, we did the other show.
Yes.
We checked on farms.
And do do we need to do it? I said,
Lot lines, is there lot of that? So it's gonna be- Clear it?
A lot of them are used to focus on maps.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't-
I've never seen this garden really. So-
I know. Since they don't leave at 5:30.
We'll just in general.
General.
Yeah.
I need to get.
Still there.
Yes, I'm here.
Has.
Here, so.
Checkbook.
Alright, so we should be good.
Something so there.
You just sent me this request?
Yeah,
Through
get
email?
an amount from him, and it was like I did last time.
I don't.
Oh, no, it's too small.
The last
Too small.
correspondence
No,
next
we
week.
would- that's all.
I don't know.
That's sort of the scripts.
Well, the farm.
No, please stop.
Rick was basically.
Between.
Hello, whatever that. I'm-
Yeah.
Very light.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody brought those, wasn't it?
No, she died tonight.
But.
Why
I think it's seven.
Here's my news, what here.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay.
How you been?
Good.
So.
You need to declare Stacey was to do over the. But you don't have to declare it.
Which one?
The lot line.
Oh.
I didn't know if you had to declare them all or if that was like a soon, you know what I mean?
You never had.
I put it on.
Just have to know what it is.
That needs. to-
Oh,
The law,
Yes.
the law has, there's two lists, right?
Yes.
Step two lists, it's not only the on the list, it's that, I want to take the, it's not done list there. Have to
And
be clear.
so then what do we?
It needs to be there.
Because it's just. Not super loud.
So I gotta knock them out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The real reason why we didn't knock them out, the real reason why you should go in is because if you, if it's not discretionary.
At least I'm assuming that there's.
I think so.
Ability change.
Yeah.
I mean, when we do a negative program,
So is this that I can figure out and just put on the agenda?
if you get,
If I have guidance from whoever?
well, Dave.
So I can talk to Dave and just put it on the agenda as whatever it is, even if you don't declare.
You know, try to avoid.
There's no, I mean, I don't. There's no other.
It's not nothing to do.
Then we just leave, and if it's.
But just-
if there are- if
just
there are-
well unless-
Yeah.
Well, unless.
Well-
And just leave it before it needed to put off.
Well, coordination.
For a town for a little while.
She always coordinates.
Had a
this.
planner
I don't see.
that got herself invited to get.
But if it's aren't coordinated, they went to
town.
Right, who it's
But she would
coordinated
tell.
If it's
applicants,
coordinated,
"Oh, yeah,
you have to do a notice of meeting, and send that, that's what.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to stay.
Yes,
You're gonna.
Stay in your lane, yeah.
Oh, you know.
Because you're really
I
gonna
mean,
test
don't,
the law.
let's
Yeah.
keep that for now, because that's the whole thing.
I know the whole thing, yeah.
But, the answer is, the list, whether or not, whether it's type one, type two unlisted, Dave can tell you, and that's that. The board should not be voting on it because there's no discretion. And the last thing we want is just to have an unnecessary mistake. Like sometimes.
This is what I. It's a lot like.
Well, I knew what it was, I just didn't know if you had to declare it, because
We
you
do
always
not.
seem to declare it.
Yes.
So I'll get them out of
But
the.
we need to do, that's fine resolutions for discretionary things, not for things, it's like declaring today's Monday. You can, if the vote fails, well, that's right, if the vote fails, then we can talk about what does it mean for the board, I don't know if that's Tuesday, but it's like, right? Are you
Ask you a procedural.
in the evening, that
If you guys get comments on the part 2 or part 3, they'll be posted to Unicloud.
We haven't gotten any, but.
any
they are there.
correspondence from the
We
public.
we will post them.
So
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right, so get me out of doing that.
Perfect. If you have anything else, let me know.
Well, I've got, you know, I've always said it's running struggles, so you know, I should jump in and. But, you know, if it's horrible, it's, I think, always. It's on, this is, it just is.
And then everyone.
And the board ever distributes a
Yeah,
day.
well, this is all the result of, not a result of anything, yeah, it's just, this is the way it's being done. It's already, everything was-
Oh, I know, but since before that, it's-
Well, maybe-
and before, other towns do it too, it's just the whole, the listing is crazy and also there's no reason for an ordinary review, it's like the planning board, there's a planning board that always.
Peter, thank you for catching that.
For what?
Uh,
For what?
For Marcia, I
Okay.
have for Marcia, done for us.
Last year
Yeah.
came in at like 11, everything was gone. So this year we are late.
Okay, you all set?
Okay, thank you.
And then it's not.
Sort of scary.
It's a rectangle, which.
So now what we do is-
Two people just got up.
What did it say?
Two people just got up waiting for that in session. Sorry.
10 minutes up? That's good.
This is like grammar school, trying to herd cats.
You need to
Alright.
like a big countdown clock
I
on the
Yeah.
wall so we can all see what's going on.
need an hourglass with sand running through it. It's important that he be here.
We're like a 2-minute warning. Yeah.
Every single building permit. That.
It's very important for you.
And you're supporting.
No, it's about it.
Why cannot load someone with planning board
Is
portal?
that him?
Not like opening.
Mhm. Mhm. I know,
It's like really hurting cats.
Mhm. That was my thoughts, yeah. Oh.
You set?
Run life.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Let's just wait for some, as slow as we wait for everybody else.
Yeah. It would be appropriate to do it better.
Since we waited for you, we'll wait for Zoran.
That's right.
All your options. But I haven't.
Is this is project ready for review? Oh,
That's what I'm thinking about artifacts.
I don't even.
It does make me about artifacts.
Unicode.
I don't know exactly what it's telling me or the fact that a dollar would have.
Well, it wasn't just.
I don't
So
think.
last time I heard it, they go to the building department. Why?
All the condemned.
Okay, let's get rolling. So, we're gonna go through, we're ready to go through Verizon, to pick it up. And if you remember the last time we met, we completed the part 2. That was 2 weeks before the last snowstorm, delay. And, so Dave Church put together a part 2 that this board participated in. And we actually put together part 3, a draft part 3, which you all should have. And we're gonna go through that tonight to make sure that the board is okay with what Dave had done based upon the input of the board and leading to a determination of significance, which we're not gonna do tonight. So just so the board knows and the public that's here knows the steps that are going to happen, proposed steps that are going to happen over the next couple of weeks. We're going to review the part 3 tonight, to see if there's any changes that are necessary. Dave Church then is gonna prepare, assuming that we don't have a lot of changes, is gonna prepare a resolution for our meeting from a week from now, a resolution regarding the determination of significance that we've been leading up to. Prior to taking that up, we're gonna open up the public hearing, which has been open. We're gonna open it up again and let the public comment on whatever happens tonight. All right, so that document that we're looking at tonight, Stacy, is up on Unity Collab, right? It was up as of Friday.
believe so.
Yeah, it's,
She sent an email saying it was up.
okay. So we will reopen the public hearing on March 9th, and we'll continue to leave it open depending upon advice of Dave Church and Dave Gordon as we go through the remaining steps. At the meeting of the 9th, I would anticipate that we're going to make a determination of significance, and we've been heading towards as a conditional negative deck. At that point that we agree to that, it gets posted to the DEC site. It's required under the seeker regulations. And under seeker, we have to have a 30-day commentary period. So those comments can be either verbal or they can be in writing. And at least right now, it's my intention to leave the public hearing open to the point in time when that 30 days has expired, which would bring us to the first meeting in April, which is April 13th. And we'll again hear from the public at that meeting. I would anticipate at that meeting, the 13th, you've got the 30 days that's run. Any comments that have come in, we will have gotten them. We'll have the public hearing again open on the 13th. I would anticipate at that point, we would close the public hearing. As well as that commentary period will be well beyond the 30-day period. And then we would be ready to do a decision at the end of that commentary period. I would anticipate that in the ensuing little bit more than a month, Dave and I and some other, Dave Gordon, would be working on the final decision. Remember the decision's findings and then conditions. It'll be quite long. If you think this one is long, it'll be quite long. So it would also potentially be at that meeting, the 13th, that we would have a public hearing, close the public hearing, and then to do the decision, assuming that there's nothing that we've learned that we need to change. So that is the game plan. So what I'm going to do tonight is to go through part 3. It's dated draft 2/27/2026, seeker full EAF part 3, 17 pages long. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to course through the major sections of it. First couple of pages are kind of pro forma up to page 4, but then we're going to get into the actual nuts and bolts. And that's where I'll pause, make comments, ask for suggestions, or just pause and let all of you make any comments that you want changes, you don't like the way it's worded, you don't like what's said. So it's 8:30, no, it's 7:30. So I would anticipate we'll be here for about 2, maybe 3 hours, give or take, hopefully 2. Because at the end of this meeting, what I want to do is retire to a meeting with our attorney, have an attorney-client meeting to talk about one of the other projects, Rav Tom. So I think we need a good hour to talk about that. So if we plan on finishing this hopefully by 9:30, then we'll go into the meeting about Rav Tom. All right, so I'm going to start with page 1. Page 1 is simply a listing of factoids about when the project came to us, things that have happened in terms of documentation, our declaration of being lead agency after circulating, and a variety of different steps that we've taken leading up to the part 2. On page 3 is a summary of our findings for the part 2. And Dave summarized it here for us, number 1 through 18. So if you had a chance to go through it, if nobody says anything, I'll just assume this is what everybody remembered in terms of what our determination was on each of these items. when we did the part two, there's no or small impact. And then there's the moderate to large impact. If it says no or small, then that category would be checked off as a no. If there was even one moderate to large, then that category would be checked off as a yes. So if you remember, the first 6 items were checked off as no. The first yes was impact on plants and animals. And that was because 4 of the items were indicated to be moderate to large. Number 8 was a no. Number 9, aesthetic resources, was a yes because of a number of items that were indicated to be moderate to large. Turning the page 4, number 10, 11, 12, and 13 and 14 were determined to be no's. Number 15, noise, odor, and light. We determined that no odor and light were no's, but that noise were yes, the possibility for noise to emanate from the site because of the generator. Number 16 and 17 were no's, and number 18 was a yes. 18 is very similar to number 9, aesthetic resources, but 18 is specifically consistency with community character. And we have said that that was a yes. And that number E and F were the items that caused us to make that a yes. So now what we're going to do is go through those items that were determined the summary category to be yeses. And the first one was plants and animals. So I'm literally I'm gonna read the 4 items that turned out to be moderate to large. And then I'm gonna kind of jump around in the ensuing 3 or 4 pages and talk about the things that we talked about or that Dave is noting, and then the conditions or the mitigation that would be taken in order to satisfy this particular category having been checked yes. So the 4 that were checked moderate to large is A, B, and C. A is proposed action may cause a reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or federal government. Number B, the proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species. C, proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern and conservation need. And G, the proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site. And what Dave did was to summarize the groups that we talked to, the groups that we either wrote to, or the groups that the applicant applied to, and that we received commentary from them. Those included U.S. Fish and Wildlife, New York State DEC Natural Heritage Program, Palisades Interstate Park Commission, better known as PIPIS. PIPSI, thank you. And then SHPO, who are responsible for a variety of named parks and have responsibility for a variety of different species. And in addition to the applicant or the board writing to these groups, the applicant also put together an informal biological assessment, an IBA, which was reviewed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And the documents that were submitted, documents that were received back as a result of the IBA indicated that there were 3 major species that were considered to be critically important by New York State: northern long-eared bat, the Indiana bat, and purple wild bergamot, which is a plant listed by New York State as critically impaired. And then Dave went on, or the document went on to also note that there was a lot of input about and concerns about radio frequency emission and their impacts on plants and animals, and impacts on migratory birds from the same, but also from the site conditions, namely the presence of the tower and the possibility of collisions with the tower. So what was addressed first was the radio frequency issue with respects to plants and wildlife, and I'm on page 6 now. Top of page 6. And I think, what we did here was, and the salient conclusion in part 3 was that the federal law, federal statute prohibits us from doing anything more than noting any concerns from the public, but does not allow us to take that into consideration in our determination, that in fact birds, or rather, plants and wildlife fall in the same category as do human beings, that we can't take into consideration any radio frequency impacts on those entities. So total of humans, plants and wildlife are exempt. And in fact, if you go to the 3rd paragraph, it starts with the planning board's attorney has advised. I'm going to read that. The planning board's attorney has advised in a series of memos, and we didn't fill out the memo dates, but there were 2 memos. We'll get those dates in there. That section 332 C7B I4, Roman numeral 4, of the TCA, the Telecommunications Act, effectively preempts the planning board from considering potential RF related impacts on plants or animals. And then the conclusion on the part of the planning board is the planning board concurs with this advice. So when we accept this document, we are in effect accepting that statement that the planning board concurs with our attorney's conclusion. Then we go into, in this section, non-RF related impacts. Namely, disturbing the environment in some way that would impact the bats, 2 species of bats, as well as potentially any other threatened or endangered species. If the paragraphs that follow here speak to the bats, and yes, there could be impact on the bats, although the area that's being disturbed is at best scrubland, but it's 3rd or 4th forest land at best, and it's already been disturbed. So the applicant will have to, as a condition, agree not to disturb, even though it's poor forest land, not to disturb any of that area between the months of November 1st to March 31st, which is part of what New York State requires.
I think it's the opposite, that you have to do the you can't do the removal.
Say that again, Peter.
The removal has to be done in inactive time or habitation time.
Oh, you're right. The inactive time is
Yeah.
November through March 31st. I had it backwards.
Yeah.
So thank you. I saw Jennifer looking at me the other way around. Thank you. And then on the issue of monarch butterflies, which were mentioned as a potential, there was nothing found with regards to monarch butterflies in that particular area. I want to note that the combination of their application to the Fish and Wildlife as well as their IBA study with the Fish and Wildlife folks, quote unquote, on page 7, 3rd paragraph, the Fish and Wildlife folks wrote, if we do not notify you within 15-day time frame, you may proceed with the action with respects to how they were going to approach the issue of the bats as well as the monarch butterflies. The monarch butterflies are easy in a sense because there's nothing that would indicate that they're present. There's no listing of them being in that particular area. And I'm going to read in paragraph 3, the last sentence. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service did not notify the applicant that it disagreed with its conclusion that the proposed action will not likely affect endangered species of migratory birds. This is deemed a concurrence by Fish and Wildlife of no adverse impact. So again, at the point when we agreed to this part 3, we are in effect agreeing to that statement. Then there was one we had written to the New York State Natural Heritage Program about 2 months ago to make sure that we weren't missing anything. And the only thing that they came back was that a plant called purple wild bergamot was potentially in the area. And so one of the conditions of the decision when we get there would be that if it's found in that compound area or any of the areas to be disturbed, it would have to be replanted off of the site. My own experience with this plant is that there's a lot of it around. So I'm not quite sure how New York State still has it as an impaired species. It's not endangered, critically endangered anyway. It's just noted as being impaired in the New York State DEC listing. So just want to note that. The next, the last paragraph on page 7. After considering all relevant information, the planning board finds that the project will not result in any significant adverse impacts on plants or animals, including migratory birds or endangered or threatened species, provided that the following mitigation conditions are followed. And this is what's important. And there are some things in here about migratory birds to avoid any kind of impact situations. So on page 8, specific conditions will be imposed that will modify the proposed action so that no significant adverse and violent impacts will result. These conditions are part of the secret final determination and will be made part of any final written decision on this action. These conditions for this secret category will include 1, no external light shall be placed on the proposed tower or antenna or antennae to avoid attracting animals, including birds, and specifically migratory birds. And we've known since the beginning that there were going to be no lights on this site, on this tower. There will be anti-nesting design measures taken to discourage potential bird nesting on the proposed facility. The applicant will specify during the commentary period post-determination of significance the specific measures it intends to take. So Scott, during this commentary period, there are some things that we're looking for you to tell us what you're going to do.
So that,
I think we recommended that rubber or make-believe birds of prey be placed upon the tower, that seems to be an effective measure, or whatever other measure the applicant intends to take. So we're going to need to see that.
understood.
Okay. The third point, all groundwork, including tree cutting, will follow New York State DEC protocols for construction activities within potential habitats of northern long-eared bat and Indiana bat. Next one, 4, land disturbance will be minimized to the smallest area necessary to complete the equipment compound and to erect the proposed tower. This area shall be mapped and field delineated in advance as the maximum area of disturbance. So Scott, that was put in there because some of the other items during the site plan review suggested that we might have to move the 50 by 50 because it doesn't meet exactly the setbacks. And we need to have a discussion at some point about whether breakpoint technology can be used to avoid that or not, in which case you have to move the compound, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
Number 5, construction activity will be monitored in the field by a qualified professional or by a staff person chosen by the town in cooperation with the town code enforcement officer or clerk of the works. So I will be talking with the new CEO to decide whether or not he wants to be the one to monitor, or if we hire a clerk of the works, which would be CPL, which the applicant would pay for to monitor whatever construction goes on there. And I'm going to defer to the CEO, let him decide as the new guy on the block whether he believes he can handle it at this point in time. So just so you know that. All right. And the last item here, number 6, any plantings with landscaping will use native species chosen in advance and approved by the town planning board. So when we get on further to the how to shield what's in the compound from the public's view, we talk about having landscaping around the perimeter of that 50 by 50 compound as well. All right, then section 9, so we're finished with this section. Does anybody have any comments on the impacts on plants or animals?
Like that, note that there was a little typo in there.
There are a couple of typos.
Yeah, but that's it.
And by the way, if you find typos, mention it. But better than that would be to send it to Dave.
Yeah.
and copy myself and Stacy, we'll just take care of it. There are a number of typos.
Just so the board knows, I'm going to work with Dave to consider how much we want to be saying in the part 3 that basically tipping our hands to a declaration of significance. This is really a compendium of the facts and mitigation, et cetera. But the declaration of significance will actually come by a separate resolution to accept this. And so I just want to figure out with Dave what the proper procedure is, the best procedure. And those people on the board that have worked with Seeker before, I know Jen has, and also Helena, I'll be probably talking to them as well. My own instinct is to keep this as clean as possible in terms of a statement of the facts and the findings, really. And then the declaration of significance will be the final evaluation as to whether an EIS is necessary. So it's just a language thing mostly. I know what Dave is trying to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Clearly, this is going to lead in a particular direction, but the actual finding is a mechanism that's actually separate. And I just want to figure out what's best in terms of disclosure in this document, because when we accept this, this will be accepted as a statement of the underlying facts of the project. What we're finding is fact. And so I just want to think through very carefully how to verbalize the process of declaring significance and whether we want to be doing so with this document or a separate resolution.
Just a reminder, and it's okay if it slips. I would hope you would, Dave, would be able to get that done between now and next Monday.
Absolutely.
And better yet, Friday, so that we can repost it all onto.
I've got my comments and I can talk to him as early as tomorrow, but he's been under the weather.
He sounded better, but he felt he needed a night home to get to bed early again.
So I have no desire to run the EAF test next week.
Okay.
We'll get that done one way or another. I mean, and to the extent that he's commented on, I don't think it's a huge deal. I just want to improve it as much as possible. So if he's mentioned that, that essentially this is going to lead in a particular direction, and then we ultimately do that, I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Okay, section 9, impact on aesthetic resources. There were 2 items that we determined were either moderate or large. Item C, the proposed action may be visible from publicly accessible vantage points seasonally. For example, screened by summer foliage, but visible during other seasons, or 2, year-round. And D, the situation or activity in which viewers are engaged while viewing the proposed action is routine travel by residents, including travel to and from work. So what he does at the bottom of page 8 and the top of page 9 is go through how we acquired or brought on board Matt Allen from Saratoga Associates to be our expert to give us advice in terms of visual impacts. And that brings us to the second paragraph on page 9. And I'm going to read a portion of this. The planning board, and this goes back all the way to March, April of last year. The planning board required the applicant to complete and report an extensive visual analysis to study the potential visual impacts associated with proposed tower and, to a lesser extent, the equipment compound proposed. The comprehensive visual analysis prepared over the course of 8 months includes 1, several visual impact assessments, VIAs, or visual resource evaluations, VREs, prepared in accordance with accepted professional methodologies. 2, identification and mapping of visually sensitive resources within the defined study area, including publicly accessible viewpoints at Minnewaska State Park. 2, viewshed analyses based on topographical data, GIS modeling, and LiDAR data. 4, line of sight cross sections. 5, balloon tests conducted over the course of 2 days in accordance with the Town of Rochester zoning code to establish visibility of the proposed tower height under real-world conditions. 6, photographic simulations from representative viewpoints. 7, photo simulations of alternative tower designs, that is, the monopine versus the monopole and different paint colors. I'm skipping now down to, on page 9, the next to last paragraph. So it's so long ago, you may not remember, but, the first visual assessment that was done by Tectonic was delivered to us late February, early March. And, it was essentially, and it's mentioned further on, but it was essentially not accepted by us. They had to go back and redo it. And details of that is documented elsewhere. So I'll wait till I get there, but as a result of the first take on the visual assessment, we deployed or we employed a balloon test. So on page 10, we go into the balloon test. The dates that it took place, some of the difficulty that we had with respects to the wind. If you remember, we could not conduct it adequately because of the wind. And so it was decided that they would hire or rent a very large boom to get it to a level, attach the balloons to the boom, and try that as a way of being able to get over this issue with the wind blowing, severely blowing, and literally detaching the balloons from the tether. And the balloon tests were taken, were done. Public participated in that, as well as Peter, who's a professional photographer, and the chair, who is not a professional photographer, and some other members of the board taking pictures. The public, there were principally 4 individuals who took pictures and delivered them to the board, and we'll get into that in a second. We'll go through those pictures. Third paragraph on the bottom of page 10. Mr. Allen's review informed the planning board that the May 2025 VRE was lacking in certain details and information that was not ready for fuller review. So as a result of what was done in February, part of which February, March, and April was the balloon test, Matt Allen determined from the results of the balloon test, as well as some of the documentation provided, technical documentation provided by Tectonic, did not meet with his approval. And if you recall, we had an extensive discussion about that. And Matt Allen, being our consultant, not Tectonic, we told the applicant in May-ish that what had been done by Tectonic in terms of the evaluation of the balloon test was not adequate, and they had to redo it. That was not delivered to us until August. The reason I wanted to make sure that this was in there, so there was April, good 2 months, almost 3 months time lost. There was a comment made by the public that, and I'll be real blunt about it, that Matt Allen was shilling for Verizon, and there was a conflict of interest on the part of Matt Allen because of work that he had done for Verizon. Matt Allen provided me with the details of his work, not for Verizon, but for third party hired by Verizon. So I wanted to put in here, there were 2 instances when Matt Allen caused Verizon what I would call significant delays in their application by saying your work is not adequate. This was the first one. And to be a bit of a wag, it hardly suggests that Matt Allen was shilling for Verizon if he caused them these 2 delays, which involved both time, and time equals money. The other delay is not in here, and I wanted to ask Dave Church to put it in here. The other delay had to do with some further technical studies that were done by Tectonic in terms of simulating what the tower would look like at different heights, and what the tower would look like from different vantage points, as opposed to a balloon test. So simulations using the technology available. And that also was not acceptable to Matt or to members of the board. And there was a almost 2-hour conference call, not of all the members of this board, but a couple of members of the board, as well as the 2 Daves and Matt Allen, where again, we accepted some of the findings, but rejected others and told them that they had to go back and redo it. They didn't feel that they whatever they would come up with in redoing it would be any different in terms of the technology that they were familiar with. So Matt Allen said, I can do it. So he did at Verizon's cost. And that caused another delay of about almost a month. So I want to include those details in here just to be completely complete. Again, suggesting or unsuggesting that Matt Allen in any way was leaning towards Verizon. And there was a considerable cost to that at Matt Allen's rates. And so on page 10, third paragraph from the bottom, the first delay of almost 3 months is mentioned. Second paragraph from the bottom is a summary of the results of that new study done by Verizon under the instructions of Matt Allen. And I'm going to read that paragraph. The August 2025 VRE confirmed that a portion of the proposed tower is expected to be partially visible from approximately 9 of the 19 visually sensitive areas identified. If you remember, Peter and Helena identified areas that are visually sensitive, and I think other members of the board contributed to that. But Peter being very familiar with Minnewaska as a hiker and a photographer, and Helena the same thing. And we reached out to Minnewaska, PIPSI, to get sites, visually sensitive areas. So 9 of the 19 were identified as potentially partially visible. However, because the tower will not be skylit and will be in a valley, the overall visibility of the tower structure from such locations, as confirmed by Mr. Allen and the planning board, will be limited, intermittent, and primarily filtered by existing vegetation and topography. In many instances, views would occur at distances and under conditions where the facility would appear as a minor vertical element within an already developed or forested horizon. As a result, the proposed tower is not expected to result in significant adverse visual impacts to the identified visually sensitive resources in the surrounding area. So again, in terms of if we accept this statement, we are in effect making a statement as the planning board. Remember, we're not necessarily agreeing with Matt Allen. Matt Allen did write us an extensive letter to that effect, but it's our responsibility not just to rubber stamp his determination. We're making this determination based upon the available information from Matt Allen and Verizon, as stated here in this document. So I just want to point that out. It goes on to further say, for comparison, the applicant also prepared viewshed maps using current LiDAR data for each of the 3 existing towers currently located in the town. Those maps demonstrate that the overall visibility of the proposed tower is similar to the visibility of the existing 3 towers in the town. The next page,
I just want to jump in and point out again, we've made a statement of essentially a negative declaration in the text of the part 3, and I'm going to work with Dave to examine whether that's the best place for that. If we do a neg deck, it will be in the text of a separate resolution. And so I want to get just the facts here. One of the things I am concerned about is that as part of, if we're considering a condition negative declaration, then the condition is a lower height. That lower height is essentially mitigation for impacts of height. And I want to be very careful about presenting the board with a range of options as to our findings as to what the impact of the tower is going to be. And so I'm going to work with Dave to come up with language that may be a little bit different, depending on where the board wants to go next week.
Something I would mention is that I believe, I'll double check, but I believe in the past when I've issued negative declarations, I've never done a conditional neg deck. But with traditional neg decks, I would also, you know, that large document that was pulled together that included the visual analysis, it had all the details and it was like 500 pages. That would also be attached to the neg deck.
Everything's going to be attached.
Everything would be there,
But
and then we would say what we're gonna say.
this is really a encapsulation of all the findings that we're doing.
Yes.
Not necessarily an evaluation of an environmental impact statement. And so that's why I wanted to be really careful. And a good example here is obviously lowering the towers mitigate is gonna be a condition, and it's gonna be maybe the most important condition in terms of mitigation. It's mitigating largely the visual impacts. Now, it's not only the visual impacts in this section, in the separate section, we're gonna look at the visual impact on the neighborhood. And then you're gonna get a much more, obviously substantial impact there, but I'm just pointing out again, I'm gonna give the board a range of language for you to consider and adopt next week. It'll be essentially in form of red line from this. Dave can get me a word version. We'll have a red line so you guys can pick and choose the way you want it to read. And ultimately, there'll be a separate resolution when you evaluate it under the law.
So it's in this section where I'm gonna stick the information that Matt Allen provided me with. He reminded me of the extensive discussions that we had with the applicant and didn't accept
Right,
some of the results.
right.
Peter, you were on that
Yeah.
call. It was excruciating.
Yeah.
And Matt Allen redid everything literally in order to provide us with his assurance, with information that would ensure that we were satisfied with the results. So I'm going to have that stuck in here as well. So that is missing, but it will be here. On page 11, the document goes on now further. So we're beyond the balloon test and the analysis of the balloon test. Now we're into specifically the evaluation of impacts on Minnewaska State Park, Route 4455, and other scenic resources. Now, if you remember, we've had here the opening sentence, key to any analysis is the potential impacts on inventory aesthetic resources. So you have inventory aesthetic resources. That is a term that's used and described or methodology for determining whether that's true, that there's an impact on an inventory resource. It's part of the New York State DEC playbook, I guess is the best way to put it. And that visual guide, that playbook from the DEC is in the middle of page 11, quoted word by word. So I'm going to pick up and read that statement just to refresh our memories. According to the New York State DEC visual guide, aesthetic impact occurs when there is a detrimental effect on perceived beauty of a place or structure. Significant aesthetic impacts are those that cause a diminishment of the public enjoyment and appreciation of an inventoried resource. Inventoried as in Minnewaska Park and Scenic Byway, but one that impairs the character or quality of such place. While private individuals or landowners are members of the public, aesthetic impacts to a publicly accessible scenic or aesthetic resource do not usually give rise to the level of significance contemplated in this policy, inasmuch as a criterion of significance involves evaluating the number of people affected by the action. And I guess to take it down from the legalese into peopleese, that means that while you may see it from your backyard, when it comes to evaluating the impact on inventory resources, it's not appropriate to say, well, I can see it from my backyard. Your backyard is not an inventory resource. It has to be, what's the impact or what's the view shed from that inventory resource? The planning board requested Mr. Allen to provide his opinion as to whether the proposed tower would result in any significant adverse impacts to inventory aesthetic resources. He did that in a letter of October 31st, 2025. And those conclusions, we'll get to that in a little bit. We also asked input from PIPSI, working with both Matt Shook from PIPSI, as well as Mr. Laird, whose first name escapes me right now, but Joshua Laird, thank you. And we had a series, if you remember, of back and forths there. At first, they claimed that there was significant impact. There were pictures that they took. We went through it. We had numerous discussions with them, and we determined that they agreed that those pictures were not adequately portrayed. They were telephoto pictures, they were crop pictures. And so on November 6th, Joshua Laird, executive on page 12, executive director of PIPSI, wrote to me One-page letter stating, after reviewing the materials provided by the planning board, Pipsy does not believe that the tower will create significant negative visual impacts at the visitor center along the ADA path or at Stony Kill Falls. All key features at Minnewaska analyzed in this assessment. This letter went on to note concerns with visibility nearby along road lookouts off of Route 4455. And we did agree to do additional studies regarding that. Okay, with respect specifically to Minnewaska State Park Preserve and other identified aesthetic resources identified as in the term inventory resources. The planning board finds, one, the proposed facility will not intrude upon a foreground or focal view from principal scenic overlooks. Two, any visibility from distant or partially screened vantage points would be limited in scale and duration. Three, the facility being the tower, would not materially alter the character defining features of the park's scenic resources, including ridgelines, water features, or expansive natural vistas. And four, the tower would appear as a slender vertical element in the broader landscape. It would not dominate the view or obstruct significant scenic features. So again, this series of statements, if we agree to adopt this, we are in fact agreeing with those statements. And then there's a section, because I referenced this, consideration of the public submissions and photographs. So that had to do with Pipsy. The planning board encouraged the public to participate by taking pictures. And then this document on page 12 goes on to say that, unfortunately, the planning board finds that most of these photographs are of limited value for several reasons. And then we go on to enumerate those reasons. And there are three specific reasons. One, and if you remember when we continued to publish this stuff on the town's website in anticipation of the balloon test, we published all of the rules of the road, you might say. And so the pictures, with the exception of some of Peter's pictures, were ruled to be insufficient and of limited value because there was an absence of verifiable metadata, which is the information having to do with where did you take it from, and the focal length, and a series of other technical details. Second, the use of excessive zoom or telephoto lenses, and enough said. Third, lack of any technical analysis, no expert report, professional visual assessment, which would have pointed out some of the missing items like the metadata or the fact that the photos were either cropped or were taken with excessive zoom or telephoto lenses. So for all those reasons, most of the public pictures taken primarily by 4 different members of the public were ruled not out of bounds, I guess, the best way to put it. So then we go on to talk about on page 13, the mitigation conditions in order to mitigate impact on aesthetic resources. Specific conditions will be imposed that will modify the proposed action so that no significant adverse environmental impacts will result. These conditions are part of the seeker final determination and will be made as part of any final written decision on this action. 1, required use of a stealth design monopine to camouflage the tower. This monopine must have breakaway technology in its construction to alleviate site plan setback issues. And Scott, we would invite during this 30-day waiting period or commentary period, a discussion of this setback technology that you've mentioned to us would be employed. And if it can't be deployed with the monopine, we have to move in order to make the setbacks. We'll have to move the
I'm asking the ZBA for a variance from that, just so this board's aware of that. Because I didn't know where you were going. And I
a
just
variance from the setback.
So regardless of how it's interpreted, I just,
All right.
whether they do it or not, I don't know.
I was going to suggest that there's verbiage which we can talk about with our attorney, but there's verbiage in the code that actually allows us to give the variance.
I agree with you, and I just didn't know if this board was gonna end up there. I think we've had discussions on it.
We
So-
have,
Since had to get before the ZBA, I just said, well, I'll throw it in there. Now, if this board decides to grant that waiver, if that's what we call it, then I can just eliminate that from the ZBA's consideration.
so when we get to the final determination and the final site plan material, there is verbiage. It doesn't actually say you can waive it, but it says you can take breakpoint technology, quote unquote, into consideration. Well, if you're gonna take it into consideration, that sounds to me to be a waiver.
If they confirm,
Sorry,
if they confirm, they can make.
if they can confirm that they can do it
Yeah.
with the monopine, then we can grant the okay in terms of not being within the requirements of the specific setbacks, the needs and bounds.
Are we waiting to find out whether that will work?
Yeah, I'll send a message to the engineer, the structural engineer tomorrow and get his input.
Okay,
And I will
that's
let you know
great.
right away.
All right.
So just to clarify though, at 120 feet, the setback would be 132 feet.
Well, that's another issue that at 120 foot, well, the tower, in my view, has to be 125 feet to steel. The 120 foot reference really is an antenna centerline reference that's in the report, so I understand why it's confusing. And I think Dave Church know about that. The other thing you have to consider is if the tower is gonna be 125 feet tall, it's actually, the structure is gonna be taller than that, because you wanna have a conical shape, and that's usually 7 to 10 feet above that. So just so you know.
So what you're saying, let's back up. So what you're saying is at 120 feet, the antenna itself would rise up to 125 feet. And then above that, you'd have the part where the cone gets tipped off, the tree is higher than that still.
So I think yes, so, and that's a good point, since you have the conical part, maybe the tower can be 120 feet steel. I'd have to ask the construction people about that, but so, because that 120 foot means that that's where the center line of the antenna is, so you're gonna have, like you said. The top portion of the antenna will be above the top of the steel,
Yeah,
but there'll be,
Well, but it doesn't quite work out that way because to get you've been mentioning 125 feet now consistently, and I thought that extra 5 feet was for the cone. Now you're telling me it's also for the antenna. The problem is, if for 5 feet for the antenna, that's a 10-foot high antenna. Is that?
No, I think, I think I know what Scott's referring to. It's a little bit different from what you mentioned.
Okay,
You're suggesting that in order to do a monopine, you need to make the tower higher, that 120 doesn't work. What we're saying is, you're gonna make a conical monopine that tops out at 120. On top of that, we know that there has to be a slender 5-foot antenna that goes up another 5 feet, so you can call it 125 feet in total, but the top of the cone is at 120.
that's not what he's saying.
no,
Well, he said, you're right, you're saying you want it at 130, we're saying no. That 120 is the top of the cone, whether it's a monopole or a monopine.
see, I don't think that's even justified in the record. Because that 120, no, I'm just trying to explain, that 120 number, it's not anyone's fault, it's very confusing. The RF engineer uses an ACL number. No, that's where the 120 comes
What's
from,
ACL?
antenna centerline number.
Yeah,
So it just means that, like you said, Dave. That, yeah, at 120, that would be where the center line of the antenna is, so the,
by the same token, 145, which was the application, really meant 149 because these antennas are roughly 8 feet high, right? So you're looking at 4 feet, a 4-foot delta from the midpoint to the.
there are a few of the antennas are larger, but most of them actually are 5 feet-ish, but I've got a note into the 8-footers, we do use them, but I have to confirm from the RF. The 145 was top of steel, but then there was a 4-foot lightning rod on top of that. Everything has to have a lightning rod, so it has to be grounded. So I think to avoid the confusion.
So it's a top of a ceiling or top of or center of the antenna, I'm confused, because right now you're saying 145 top of the steel
Yes.
and then a road. So 145, the antenna gonna be below 145?
It will not be above, the top of the antenna will not extend above 145 feet. Under that scenario. So what I have to do is go back to
On
my,
145, so now you're saying it's not center of the antenna, you're saying it's the top of the antenna?
what I'm saying is the RF report always provided two numbers. They provided 140, which is the antenna center line.
Okay.
They also looked at maximum height analysis, so they considered lower heights to show you what the lower height at 120 ACL would be. That's where I think the 120-foot is coming into play here. Even with a 120-foot tower or ACL, that always means that the tower would be
So
120.
comparing apples to apples, this is 140 feet in your proposal down to 120 feet and where we might be going.
So you're saying,
Antenna center line.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I've got to do is, it sounds like you're looking to get top of structure at 120 feet.
Why don't you provide us with a drawing?
Yeah, I have to find out if that's
Very clear in
doable.
our findings what it is,
Yeah,
we'd
yeah.
be,
That's,
what we'd be.
what I always thought was it was 120 plus the lightning rod, whatever, of another 4 or 5 feet.
No,
it wasn't, it was, the original proposal was always 145 foot to the top of steel, then the 4-foot lightning rod.
I know that, but
And then when we considered the lower height for the maximum or the minimum height necessary, we considered.
Center of the antenna.
Yes, and that's all right, and I need to correct that with the engineer. That's how he looks at it.
But you also need lighting road on 120.
That is correct. So,
well, all that I remember from Doug Fishman's report was that at 120, which I took to be the top of the pole, forget about the lightning rod, at 120, there was sufficient capacity or sufficient height to get the transmission capabilities you wanted. So in my mind, the top of the pole, whether it's a monopole or monopine, is 120 plus a lightning rod.
but I think you have to go back to Mr. Fishman's review to see exactly what he stated. I don't have it committed to memory, but I'm assuming that he relied upon our RF engineer's analysis, which I did commit to memory. And I looked at it today for confirmation, and he says in the minimum height justification, it's 120-foot ACL. What he doesn't say is, though, that means it's 125-foot tower. And that's where the confusion's coming in, and I understand why it's confusing, and I wish it was more consistent.
You need to clarify something about the road.
You know, so I will go back, get you a drawing. And I'll ask our people structurally, how can you do this to keep the height to the minimum, obviously lower than the 145.
Scott, do RF engineers typically communicate in terms of the center point of the antenna?
Yes, because that's basically the center point of the pattern of the signal. So that's how they typically do it.
If the board would just bear with me, I had a copy of Mr. Fishman's report.
Okay, here's a problem.
That can mean,
But maybe if we take a break in a while, I'll be able to find it. But okay, Scott, in my mind, it's the 120, so it with the 4-foot or 5-foot lightning rod, but
You obviously have to.
we have to
clarify
talk
something.
more about that.
Right. I'll get a drawing to you, so we can at least.
And I am gonna find, I know I have Doug Fishman, so we'll need a break probably in 15 or 20 minutes, and I will find that report and we can. So on page 13, let me go back to point number 1 on page 13. Required use of stealth design monopine to camouflage the tower. This monopine must have breakaway technology in its construction to alleviate site plan setback issues, and we had that discussion about whether you're gonna go to the ZBA or we can take care of it ourselves. No exterior lighting except as may be required to meet FAA requirements. There's no FAA requirement,
No,
so we don't even need that in there. It's just going to be no exterior lighting.
no,
Okay. Use of tower and equipment colors to blend into the background. So we need to talk about that. Is it gonna be silver? There were a couple of different options.
it could be painted.
Well, if we do monopine, you're gonna make we're probably less concerned about the color of the pole. Because you're gonna have all the,
Yeah, but the pine trees don't come down all the way to the ground.
you're right, so
So that you know, I've seen the bottom painted, I've seen it left galvanized, that's your.
I think we had not, I think we had arrived at galvanized being the most appropriate way of doing this.
There was definitely discussion about that at one of the recent.
That was one of the items that Matt Allen gave us. Reduction of maximum height of tower to 120 with a 5-foot antenna. The maximum needed, this is the maximum needed to meet telecommunications user demand. This height is based on independent advice from the town's telecommunications technical expert and his report dated. And I will find that report tonight. And the last item here. Screening of equipment compound from Granite Road, from nearby apartment complex, and from all nearby residential structures using native vegetation as well as berming and fencing. Okay, so that would complete section 9. And those would be the conditions that would be required in order to mitigate what we're calling impact to aesthetic resources. And then section 15.
This is one thing I would just want to make a note that there is a typo, and I'm only mentioning it because it's the wrong name, which is for page 10. First is Stanley Kilfall, and it should be.
Oh, yeah, it should be Stoner Kill.
So it's just a little bit more than a typo, because there's no Stanley Kilfall that I know of.
Okay.
But
It's the same thing on page 10. Talks about Whitefield Road, which doesn't exist. It's called Whitfield.
Whitfield.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant mistake.
Hang on 1 second. Sorry.
it's on page 10. Yeah, it's correct on page 12. It's incorrect.
And Stony Kill, not Stanley Kill. That's on page 10 also.
On 10,
Okay.
But it's correct on page 12, so.
Sorry?
Yeah, in terms of the paint, I think the visual analysis showing that thunder gray is much less. What's the right word?
Impactful.
Yeah, I mean, less visual, basically blends in.
And what was the
Thunder gray,
Thunder Gray?
thunder gray.
All right, let me go back, have Dave go back to Matt Allen's work. I thought it was galvanized.
He gave options that as well, but
Okay. And you found that in Matt Allen's picture renditions?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Florian. Okay, on page 14, section 15, which was the next section that had moderate to large impacts noted. The impact that was noted is the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. And I'm going to summarize this one and go right to the mitigation conditions. So this took a while to get settled as well. The first study that we had from Tectonic failed to measure the ambient noise. So then we had them go back and measure the ambient noise. And the long and the short of it, if you quickly go through a couple of these paragraphs, is that the decibel level was well within town code. And in fact, it's pointed out that it's significantly less, or it's less than what you would hear if humans were talking at the site. And certainly a lot less if you were to run a lawnmower over the area. In fact, 300% less. Using somebody's favorite use of percentages to make it sound like it's a huge percentage, but I won't go there. So 107 decibels with a lawnmower and only 48 decibels, the noise from a generator. Okay, so
Something there that we
Yes.
talked about, that we may want to add as a condition is, time of day for when the generators will run, because it has to exercise weekly. And I think they told us that it's like weekdays. That's- Maybe it's bi-weekly, but just indicate that like they shouldn't be exercised on weekends
So
or
I think-
evenings, which I don't think it matters because I don't think they do it anyway, but just so that we have it in there. that,
It's
Every 2 weeks is what they, and then it should be,
Is that a condition? Did we include that?
I don't see it on the list.
no, it's not there. We have to add that every 2 weeks.
It says the facility will include a diesel generator, emergency generator will only run continuously for routine maintenance approximately 20 to 30 minutes bi-weekly
Okay.
Oh, it is
during
there.
times of extended outage. This is necessary to provide continuous wireless service, blah, 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 blah.
Then once time of day.
It says the only other time that the generator will run is for a test cycle every other week for approximately 30 minutes. The test cycle is generally set for Tuesday mornings after 9 AM, but can be adjusted as necessary.
So I wouldn't wanna stipulate it has to be Tuesdays, but just to say it will
Weekday?
occur Monday through Friday during business hours or something so that it's not 11 o'clock at night, not that they would, but you know,
Monday through Friday between,
7 AM and 5 PM or
oh,
something.
7, some people are still sleeping.
They've
How
got,
about 9
they've
to
already got
5?
9 o'clock, let's.
No, that's fine,
It's nationally done on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, but
but I don't wanna put a condition.
understood. But that,
It's a national time of.
Generator running.
it is,
Generators go on.
they all go at the same time, unless there's a reason that to change it, we can change it if we have to, but I understand what you're saying, that's fine.
But it's easy, frankly, it's easy. I mean, I studied this a little bit. It's very easy to change the generators.
Yeah.
When they do that test.
Yeah.
It's more just so people have an assurance that it's not gonna be on a Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
We're not gonna do that.
Are we keeping them up?
Oh,
Scott, the other item that's not here is that there could be other co-locators on this tower, which will require additional generators. So in the site plan, not necessarily here, but in the site plan portion, it's gonna be made clear that if additional co-locators come to mount their stuff on this tower, they have to come down to this board to get that approval. I think that's provided for in our code, so it's obvious by the business code, by the,
Unless it's under the Spectrum Act, then it doesn't change the physical appearance, it doesn't increase the height, they actually. Well,
well,
they may have to come back to your board, but you have to approve it in 60 days, you don't have any discretion.
But
well,
we can put conditions on it.
we're gonna put conditions on it.
But they have the painting it and stuff like that, or
No, I understand, but that's, just yeah, that's,
we can have that discussion later
yeah,
on.
that's
whether-
further down the road, I don't.
But most particularly, if you put a second or third generator there, there's gonna be more noise. So we're gonna need to have a discussion about, they're not going off at the same time, they need to be staggered.
Oh, that's.
All right, so there will be something in here referencing that it's part of a site
Well,
plan
mitigation.
condition.
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on the noise?
I want to ask a question, Scott, can you please remind, what was the agreement between Owner and Verizon about not doing something, wasn't it about
Oh, we limited the height of the tower not to extend above 145 feet plus the 4 foot.
it's not additional, additional company?
No.
No code.
No, but since you raised the issue, you know, co-locators, the factory towers will potentially impact how many co-locators can go onto a tower like that without going higher. I mean, just like Doug Fishman said, he said, you know,
It's 6 to 1,
120 is the,
It's 6 and 1/2
you
dozen
know,
of another.
so just brought, no, but your code just talks about it, so it just,
I think this board talked about it, we'd rather take the chance of keeping this lower.
Yeah.
And run the risk if somebody says, well, we need another tower.
oh, I think with that, I recall that conversation.
So the board realizes that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're okay. Yeah. All right, so Peter, thank you. We hadn't quite gotten there, but on page 15, you have 4 mitigation conditions to mitigate the impact on noise. And that's where it had the well, let me read them. The mitigation for noise includes 1, a dark an acceptable clapboard style enclosure for the entire 50 by 50 compound. There was one point in time we were talking about masonry, but that's not necessary. Soundproofing enclosure, wooden enclosure. Not a chain link fence, but
Yeah, I think the plans show, we had vinyl fence, it was a solid vinyl fence.
are they soundproofing type?
No, our position is you don't need the soundproofing type, we've proven that we comply with your code, so that's just piling on.
But if,
And I get what you're trying to do,
but if you have 2 or 3 generators,
but right now we don't.
but you will probably have 2 or 3 generators, so that's why we're gonna
I don't
ask
think we're
for.
gonna have three. I think that's an unlikely scenario.
So there's gonna be a condition that requires soundproofing technology used out of abundance of caution to make sure that if there are co-locators, that you don't have to go back and change out the fence.
You could, I hear what you're saying, I'm not trying to argue with you, you could always make the co-locator go change the fence out. Because my client just looks at this and says, why do we have to do something that was not required?
Well, how does the board feel?
I think about the study refers ambient noise related to the traffic. But that street doesn't have a traffic. So there won't be really 60 dBA kind of regular traffic, it will be right now probably 40, 45. So they will hear at the apartment, the generator. So I think in leaving generator open on the top, it's not a solution because noise goes up. So I think the most effective way to mitigate the noise to put a generator in enclosure, soundproof enclosure. If you add another generator, somebody add another generator, they will have to do essentially the same. If Verizon doesn't want to make a big enclosure, prediction that maybe a second generator need to be added. That's my.
Yeah, no, but what you said is noise proof, and there's no way we're gonna hide all the noise from it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah,
it
not
should be
all of them.
mitigation, it shouldn't say soundproofing, it's incorrect.
To me,
So Dave, I'm sorry. What
It
was your-
should say sound mitigation, not soundproof. You know, soundproofing is,
Something entirely different.
it's getting rid of the noise completely.
So sound mitigation.
Yeah.
Okay.
The proposed generator does have a sound mitigating enclosure,
It does, it's baffled or the exhaust.
which is the result of the noise study. So there's already,
I see.
um,
Insulation on inside of the cover.
correct. Correct. So the enclosure around the generator is, and I can't remember the exact wording they use, but it's a sound reducing enclosure.
Right, but they produce the numbers for noise source based on that cover.
That,
So we're trying
Yes.
to accomplish less because there is a apartment building nearby.
So I think we have a solution. We have soundproofing material, sound mitigating material in the generator itself. And Dave is suggesting that we have further sound mitigation type of fencing around it.
With cover on top because otherwise.
Cover on top of the compound?
Hold on, I have Hans is waiting to talk.
I did some research around mitigation for generators, and if you berm it, since noise goes upwards, that seems to be a very effective approach.
How would you burn this site?
Oh, it's a huge.
An earthen berm around it?
That would be
Yeah.
quite a lot of
Yeah.
area. You know, actually do.
So-
That's what I saw.
So
Jen?
can I share, okay, so I know more about noise than I ever thought I would learn in my life because I've had to do construction work. So as part of those analyses, I've had to do a lot of noise modeling, et cetera. Given that this is an emergency generator, it's only running 30 minutes per week. Given the distance to the nearest sensitive receptor, I don't view the noise as a significant impact. Similarly, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is, we're proposing to put up something around the site. That won't do anything for the noise of the generator. If you want to limit the noise of the generator, there needs to be something around the generator itself in very close, in relatively close proximity, or the sensitive receptor needs to be on the other side of the wall. If it's like a second story apartment and the generator's here, you can have a fence, but it's not gonna make a difference.
Okay.
So just in terms of how we think about what we want here, it's 30 minutes a week.
Yeah, but.
Every other week, it's 30 minutes.
But we also need to remember we live in the area when power goes down. Quick, relatively, once per month, something like that, so they can.
It's an emergency, Zorian. At that point in time, you just have
Yeah.
to live with it.
Frankly, there will be 10 generators.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
It's like, it's,
I know that when our power goes out, all I hear is generators.
I mean, the whole neighborhood is humming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, I think we've beat this one to death. We've
Okay.
given- Second one, enclosure must be of a material that significantly dampens, mitigates any noise from a generator. Since the larger enclosure may house more than one generator, the strong suggestion is that the entire enclosure be sound dampening material, which is what we've been saying, sound mitigating and dampening material, not proofing. Fencing, fencing design and height required to soundproof neighboring properties for any operational equipment sounds. Post-construction sound testing with corrective measures required if determined by town. Essentially, what this is saying that is if after it's built, there's a complaint to the code enforcement officer, he of course can go out there and monitor it and determine whether or not it suits or is within the town code. If it is, that's it. If it's not, then he requires other things to be done. That's all this one says. So there's some rewording that has to be done here, but I think we've done sufficient enough with the sound for a limited number of times that it's going to occur. Section 18, consistency with community character. And specifically number E, the proposed action is inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character of the area. F, proposed action is inconsistent with the character of the existing natural landscape. And so this document goes on to talk about and actually refers us back to section number 9 and suggests that in the same way that yes, there is going to be some impact. However, the presence of the monopine is meant to mitigate that impact from Granite Road and from the surrounding properties, as well as the fencing, as well as the landscaping that would go around the 50 by 50 enclosure. So at the bottom of page 16.
Before we get in, on which, are you in the mitigation, the overall mitigation?
I'm just gonna hop to mitigation.
Well, before you go, because we've
Okay.
been mitigating sort of section by section.
Go ahead.
I would also want this I'll talk to Dave to see what he thinks. But I would suggest that the section reflect that the lower height, if we were to move in that direction, would mitigate the community character impacts as well. Community character impacts at 120 are going to be different than at 140, 145.
Okay.
So you can talk that, I know we can talk about everything else, but the height here, and I think that that's probably an oversight.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
All right. And then I actually to that point, the paragraph in the middle of the page, talking about the character of the area. It is mentioned here that the proposed action is in the rural conservation zoning district. And that's as if to say, we realize that, but wireless communications facilities are permitted in this district as per the special use permit requirements of the town zoning code. So
Yeah, but we still have an obligation under secret to try to mitigate it.
Right.
And that's.
And
what
so
I think that's what I think we're trying to do by considering a lower height.
and the mitigation conditions or the mitigation methods for this go on page 17. Number 1, all the items already mentioned for section 9 will be used to mitigate the impact to community character. Most particularly,
Okay, it is there.
it is here, the use of the monopine pole, screening of equipment compound from Granite Road and lower portion of the tower from nearby apartment complex and from all nearby residential structures using native vegetation as well as berming and fencing. Submission of as-built drawings and a landscape plan to be reviewed by the town code enforcement officer and the town planning board for any corrective measures. Replacement of any screening and plantings found damaged or ineffective within 6-month and 12-month intervals from the initial construction or planning. So this is the first crack at part 3. Does the board have any other comments they want to make? General comments? if you have specific comments that we didn't get to or you didn't get to, what I'd like you to do is to send it to Dave directly. And copy Stacy, myself, and Dave Gordon.
As soon as Dave is filling up with that, we'll go over comprehensive comments, so the sooner the better. You definitely don't want to push it past this week.
And I want to get this redone by Friday so we can publish it. All right. So there's no resolution that's necessary at this point. In fact, it wouldn't be appropriate at this point. Does the applicant have any comments?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you mentioned possibly taking a break to look up the Doug Fishman report. I pulled it up while we were talking.
Okay, yeah, why don't we take another 10-minute break?
Oh.
And I'm gonna find it.
I've already got it. No.
You've got it?
Yeah.
Do we need a break? Why don't you, if you've got it already, I don't need to find it, you have it?
He does mention the 120-foot AGL, but I think that's a mistake because we never analyzed the 120-foot AGL. So he specifically is referencing our report. It's just a mistake. We use ACL.
He mentions but he mentioned ACL in the beginning of the letter as well. And he differentiates them. So it's a open question. We'd have to check with him, see what he means.
I think that's a great idea because I think, yeah.
Because in the critical statement, he talks about 120-foot, as you point out, 120-foot AGL.
Center.
You know,
Which, and I think it's all the way back in page 1 or something like that, he differentiates, maybe page 2, I don't
He
know.
does.
But he
It
does
says
differentiate.
145
Talks about-
AGL above ground level.
So.
right. But then in this one section, he says 4 different elevations were examined in terms of the minimum height justification. And he says 160-foot AGL, 140,
Probably
120.
ACL.
But it's ACL.
Yeah,
That's,
because
but please confirm.
That's the letter, that's the critical.
Yeah,
letter
that's just the
I'll confirm
misunderstanding.
with him in an email.
Yeah.
And I'll copy you on it, I'll copy the board on the email.
Verizon antennas are specified as 140 ACL.
Right,
ACL.
I'm gonna
It's
confirm,
CL, that's right.
I'll confirm it with him. Anything else? Wow,
Record time.
Well, just send them to us, get them in soon. I'll be
20 minutes.
sending-
Can I ask a question about the calendar you laid out, Chairman?
yeah, let me just go back to my notes on the calendar, go ahead, Larry.
So, thank you very much. So, I'm not sure. You said you expect to make a determination of significance next Monday on March 9. And then there's a 30-day comment period. And the comment period is on the Form 3, so if you pass a resolution of having a neg deck with conditions next Monday, that is not a irreversible decision. It's subject to the 30-day comment period.
That's right. I just looked up the exact wording of in the seeker regulations, which is in 617.7.
Right.
I think 617.7D. The way it reads, which is a little odd, is that the declaration of significance is presumably effective when we voted. After the 30-day comment period, the regulation specifically appears to contemplate that we would go back and reconsider it if there is a comment that indicates a significant adverse environmental impact. That's the way I read the regulation.
Thank you.
And Larry, to that point, what we'll do is next Monday, we'll open up the public hearing. We'll do what we plan on doing in terms of a declaration of significance. The 30-day period, the next time we would consider the application would be the first meeting of April, which is more than 30 days. And I'll open the public hearing again at that meeting, but then close it. And then we need to take action.
Point is, Dave, the decision that is made on the resolution next Monday is subject to being revisited depending on the board's
That's
reaction.
right, and I'd also commend you to 617.7 E and F, which are the 2 paragraphs that relate to reconsideration of a negative declaration after the negative declaration is issued. I guess I'm not, CND, I suppose, would be included in that by dint of 617.7D. And so you could look at those criteria. The bottom line is, putting it bluntly, you would need to demonstrate a significant adverse environmental impact under seeker. I would suggest, if you're going to do that, you do it in writing.
Yeah.
In terms of whatever support you would be using to do that. And I would also suggest, although it's not necessary because we're gonna have a public comment period, but the sooner the better. And if you could do it this week, obviously, that would that would help, but just, you know, as soon as you could and in writing so that if it's just oral, we'll listen, but obviously something like that would involve some
It'll be in
significant
May,
technical
but we just
demonstration.
got the draft part 3 last Friday, so I don't think it's fair.
We're looking at a month down the road, so just
And Mr. Chairman, when you said that there'll be a very lengthy decision thereafter, that's a decision on the secret review, not on the whole.
My reference to the decision was on the whole kit and caboodle,
site plan approval.
the site plan approval.
I'm not aware that the board has made a decision on the need. Will that be addressed in that decision?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also referenced here in the part 3. It's both in Doug Fishman's letters and it's referenced here in the part 3, but absolutely it's a requirement of approval.
I didn't see any reference to the need point.
I thought it was.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Do we have to give notice of the public hearing?
yes.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, the DEC public hearing is noticed by virtue of putting it on the DEC website.
Correct.
That's
There's
the-
also, but they also allow, if I remember the regulation correctly, they also allow the board to use its own notice procedures.
Okay.
Instead, either one, but it definitely has to be noticed.
Thank
Now, there is no required public hearing. It's a comment period. Everything in seeker, all the seeker comments are always comment periods, but the tradition is every comment period is accompanied by, in seeker is accompanied by a public hearing, including
Okay.
scoping sessions, comments on DEISs and this as well. I think we're gonna listen to the public obviously.
So we'll have to notice, depending on what we do next week, we'll have to notice this in the newspaper.
Again, you know,
Also look, check, there are, the environmental notice bulletin, the state thing, that goes out weekly, so you should check and see when you need to get it in to make sure it goes out the correct week. To start the comment period, you have to do a little bit of backwards math,
Right.
but the notice itself is very short, like a short paragraph.
So the day that my understanding from the code is that the day that it is up on that site is the day that the 30 days
Yes.
clock starts.
But if you wanna align that with our planning board schedules, then you should see when that will end, see when we can.
Okay.
Do some.
A question I do have, so if the point in time when it goes up on the DEC site, that's when the 30 days starts. Are we in any way, and we're gonna send out our own public hearing notice. And that needs to be done 5 days before.
I used to just do all of it at the same
You
time.
know what, we're just gonna do it all the same.
I would do it all at the same
Awesome.
time.
they're all the same, and the critical thing is having at least one meet 30. I think I'll double check, but the critical thing is that having at least one meet the 30-day requirement. Let me see what it says.
So that public notice that we send out, it'll have to be different and that will have to indicate there will be a formal public hearing at the first April meeting. But also reference, I think, the DEC commentary period as having kicked off on a certain date.
Mr.
when
Chairman,
this is up
I'm
to
just gonna
DEC.
read the verbiage here. I've got it up and then we can use our combined intelligence to interpret it. So, this is one of the requirements for CND, for issuing a CND is number 4. Has published a notice of a CND in the ENB, which is the DEC Environmental Notice Bulletin, and a minimum of 30-day public comment period has been provided. The notice must state what conditions have been imposed. An agency may also use its own public notice and review procedures, provided the notice states that a CND has been issued, states what conditions have been imposed, and allows for a minimum 30-day public comment period. So the way I'm reading this is, if we were to do both, the first 30-day comment period to finish is the first, that's when we would be able to do the final action. We don't need both 30-day comment periods to be done. It would be the first one. We gotta have one or the other.
And that's 617.
617.7D, and I'm reading subparagraph IV.
617.7.
617.7D as in dog, subparagraph IV, 4, little 4.
So
Okay.
don't do both, do one,
Say again?
don't do both, do one, I'm confused with one of them.
You can do either, you can do both. If you do both, then the first 30-day period to end, in my view, takes you to the point where you can do the CND, which means that's when you can issue your approval, disapproval, whatever your action is gonna be. Actually, you only need a CND for an approval. Disapproval doesn't require a super. they can proceed to it. So if you do both, it gives you the best time frame to get the 30 days done quicker, because however, and Jennifer's right, they're gonna be calculated differently. The EMD publishes weekly. I don't know what
I mean, in my experience, we've always, whichever, we were always more conservative. So we would, if there were multiple lengths of open hearing periods, then we would just have all of them and
On one day.
on one day. So it wouldn't be confusing because if one is still open, you know what I mean? Like then it would.
Yeah.
So we can do.
Okay.
Group intelligence, I don't know, I'd have to do more legal research to figure out.
It gets confusing if you're trying to keep people up. both.
That's what it says.
All right, we'll talk.
Mhm.
Larry, you got that?
Thank you for answering my question.
Okay. Anything else, Scott?
No, thank you.
All right, I think we're done. All right, I'll entertain a motion to end our meeting, the official meeting.
You want to do the minutes?
You wanna do the minutes or do you wanna do them next week?
Oh, no, we'll do them now.
Yeah.
That's good. There were two sets of meetings, minutes, right?
Yeah, three, they're.
So
You would do that.
minutes from February 2nd and
So
minutes from February 9th. So I'll entertain a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
I make a motion for both.
For both sets?
Both.
Hans,
Second.
Dave seconds, everybody approve?
Aye.
Anybody disapprove? 6-0, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to end the meeting. Motion by Jennifer, second. Zorian, all in favor?
Aye.
And we need to go into a session with an attorney-client private session to discuss one of the projects.